interactive work on the compute nodes. So I'm going to start, and when we get to a 11:45, Rebecca will take over and talk about the desktop on demand and how to do interactive work with that. So what are the UPPMAX, ASP.C2N, LUNARC, NSC, PDC, and other clusters? What is a batch system? A quick intro to the Slurm scheduler. What's an interactive session? Why would you need one? And how do you work with it? And then you will try running a couple Python scripts. And then we will go to on-demand desktop. And after that, it will be about loading IDEs. And that will be IAM. So you may think, why can't I just run my Python script either directly on the login node or line by line in the Python interpreter on the login node? And also that if I don't want to do that, I don't want to use the batch job, a batch scheduler. Why would I use an interactive session instead of a batch job? So there are different pros and cons. And now, since we are going to use allocation on the compute nodes, you can see here is the list of what these project IDs, the compute allocation ones are. And you should all be a member of at least one of these. So you can use that in a little while. I will talk more about it. There is also storage space where you can work in. I am not sure if there's actually one on LUNARC, but otherwise we will just have to use your home directory. Rebecca, can you elaborate?
So when you have an account on LUNARC, you get 100 gigabytes of storage for free. So generally that's a lot bigger than most other than you get on most other HPC centers. And generally for courses like this, that's enough.
So I'm going to assume there is not actually such a storage space here.
No, I don't know who. I guess I left.
I don't know why it's there.
From last year.
Yeah. Actually, I think when I checked this a couple of days ago, it said no storage space on Cosmos because there is space in your home directory. So it has somehow been added since. But it doesn't matter, just ignore it. Yes. But the 4 others, you will use storage project that is connected with the compute project. On Cosmos, it will work in your home directory. And I am here logged into Kebnekaise at the center ASP.C2N. Here I am logged in to Rakam at the center UPPMAX. And I could just change to this directory here, just to show 2 of these here. And there is on ASP.C2N, it looks like this. At the UPPMAX at Rakam, it is on the proj and then HPC Python and Spring. It should be, or is it NAISS? It's Spring. No, it's called UPPMAX. Sorry, it was named differently, like this. And as you can see here, some people have already created their own directory there. And whatever system you're going to use, you should create a space for yourself to work in, because we are going to download a tarball or fetch a Git repo. And we're going to do that so you get the exercises. And you should either put them in your home directory on the system if you're on Cosmos, or in the compute storage if you're on one of the others. So when you have logged in to the system you're going to work on, go to the directory mentioned here and then create a directory for yourself to work in. You can call it what you want to. I'm just naming it my username because that's easy to get something that is unique. You can see now I have it here. I'm going to go into it. And then I'm going to go and grab this whole directory here. Another way, you can either wget the tarball as was described on prepare the environment, or you can simply clone this Git repo. I'm going to clone it. So here, this green button, if you go to this Git repo for the course, it's listed in the important info and in the email you got. So you see the green button called code, click it. Make sure it's on HTTPS because you would not have access to SSH if it says that unless you are part of the project, so of this Git repo. So take HTTPS and then copy it and then go to the directory you just created and write git clone and then copy paste this URL you just copied. And it's going to clone into it. I'm going to do it in both these places here. And you will see you then get a directory called HPC Python. I'm going to go to it. Under that are some various directories and files. There's only really one of them that matters. This one here is a tarball, and that's the one you would have gotten with wget. You can also unpack it now if you want to, but otherwise you already have the exercises there in this directory exercises. And go into examples. And under that you will find various directories. And it looks like I didn't add the directory to the Git repo for PDC, but it doesn't matter because today we are only going to work with this directory here called programs. Inside that is some data files, some data sets, and mostly Python scripts. And that's where you will find the Python scripts that we will be talking about here. So I will go back to the material here. And there is one more thing. There's a reservation on UPPMAX. It is magnetic. That means as soon as you use the project, you will use the reservation. A reservation is something that you sometimes have because that will make it easier to get jobs to start quickly. But since we are a lot of people and there will be few nodes reserved, don't use it for long jobs because then it blocks everyone else. There's also preservation on SBC2N and there's one on LUNARC. There's none on NSC and PDC. But I don't expect we will actually use it much today because what we're going to do will be very short. Okay, with that aside, I am going to talk more about the actually interactive part of this. So some users develop Python code in a line-by-line fashion, and some will write a script. If you're developing it line by line, you may want to run this script frequently to test if it works, and it could be calculation heavy. But if you schedule a batch job each time, then it will take time before it runs because batch jobs will sit in a queue and not start until it gets allocated resources, as I will mention in a little while. Whereas if you do an interactive job, yes, that will also wait, but as soon as it has started, you can work on the resources for as long as the allocation is worth made. One other question you may have is, why would you not want to run it directly on the login node? And the reason for that is that if you use a lot of CPU, memory, cores, whatever, it will take up lots of resources for everyone. It will slow down the login node. The login node will then be unusable for everyone, and the sysadmins will not be happy, and they will complain to you, or they may even kill your job. So if you have a heavy job, please run it as an interactive session or as a batch job. And we are going to talk about that now, how to do that. So Jupyter Notebooks, you can use that. You can use it on SBC2N right now through a batch job, but we are also setting up a desktop on demand, like on LUNARC. It will be announced very soon. It's actually up for testing right now on UPPMAX. You can also do Jupyter. It's a little bit easier than SBC2N. For LUNARC, there is the desktop on demand, and you can use it also in the ThinLink. And on NSC, you can use it through ThinLink, but you can also use it to SSH. I have not found a way to do it on Dardel, but maybe one of my colleagues have. So we can talk about that later. So, an interactive session, what is the difference between that and a batch job? Well, you still have the allocation on the compute nodes, but you will be running them directly. You will have the allocation and be able to work with it, as opposed to a batch job where you cannot actually make changes after you submitted it. So what is a cluster? Well, it's a combination of login nodes and compute or calculation nodes, and such a network of computers where each computer is working on it is called a node, and each node will have several processors, cores, RAM, maybe GPUs, maybe local disk. And you can think of these local nodes as a computer. They are like a regular computer, and they are all connected. So, and they can usually, if this is a node, then you have some cores on it. It has RAM that it can use, and it has a local disk, and it's then connected to the other nodes, both in the compute cluster, perhaps to some network storage, and to the internet. So you would have in a compute cluster, you would have one or more login nodes. That is what you connect to from your home computer or from your work computer. And there you will then be when you have immediately logged in. If you then want to run on the calculation or compute nodes, where each one of these are like this, then you will have to make a batch job. And it can either be an interactive job or a job script where it runs non-interactively. And these are also all connected to the storage. So common features for these clusters at the various centers. That is, it actually don't all have Intel CPUs. There are also many now who have AMD CPUs. And there is the Cray, which is on Dardel. So I think this line here should be changed. But they are all running some variant of Linux. They are all running the bash shell. These things matters because it's relevant to how the batch scheduler works. It is only completely compatible with the bash shell. You don't need to know what it is, other than this is what you should use. Okay, so there is some different hardware on these systems. And if you look at it, you can see that the Kebnekaise is a very heterogeneous system. It has several types of CPUs and several types of GPUs. And because of that, there's also differing amounts of memory for the nodes. Rackham is a more homogeneous system. And as you can see, it doesn't have GPUs. So when you are using GPUs on UPPMAX, you are actually submitting the job to Snowy, which has GPUs. Then there is Bianca, the sensitive data system, has some GPUs and also some cores per node. Here is also a homogeneous system. Cosmos is a little bit more mixed, but it has one type of GPUs. Tetranet has also T4 NVIDIAs, just like Snowy. And Dardel has AMD nodes, because Dardel is a Cray system also. So there is some difference in how you ask for these resources, but actually the differences are not as big as you may think. It will be a few lines in this when you write a Slurm script, a job scheduler script, that will be different. The rest will be quite the same. And as I said, long resource-intensive parallel jobs must run as an interactive session or as a batch script and not directly on the login room. If what you need is live interaction, you should start an interactive session. If you can just send it off to run by itself, a batch job is better, because then you don't have to think about it. You just send it off. You can use the screen for something else. You don't have to watch it. There is a desktop on-demand tool. It's called GFX Launcher. It runs on Cosmos and on Dardel. HPC2N will also have a desktop on-demand tool. It will be run directly through the browser, and we may mention it later, but it's not yet officially open, but it will soon be in production. But Cosmos has it, LUNARC has it, and it's working well then. The terminal approach, a shell, is what works at all centers, and that's mainly what we're going to use in this course, except for when it is very graphical heavy. So I mentioned the word Slurm before. That is the name of the batch scheduler, the batch system, and it's the same at all the centers. It's an open source job scheduler. It provides 3 key functions. It keeps track of available system resources. It enforces this system resource usage and has some job scheduling policies. And it manages a job queue, where it distributes work across resources according to the policies. So it knows what kind of resources are there, how many compute nodes, how much memory they have, which GPUs there are, and so on. And you submit to the queue, and the job then goes into the queue, and dependent on what resources you have asked for, and what the priority of your job is, which has to do with how large an allocation you have and also how much you have used the system previously. It gets a priority. It sits in the queue until your job has the highest priority of those that fits on the resources. And that means that if, for instance, you ask for not very many resources, if you are happy with say running it for 10 minutes and on just a couple of CPUs, then it will start much faster than if you are asking for 10 hours on 15 GPUs or something. I mean, it simply takes shorter if you don't need a lot of resources, because it's looking for a spot where all these resources are available for a certain amount of time. Because of that, when you do start your job, if it's a batch script, then you should ask for as little time as possible, but not too little, because it will stop the moment the time is out. And that means it will also stop if your job has not finished. So don't ask for too little, but don't ask for more than you need. So it's a balance. Of course, if you're doing an interactive job, interactive session, then you're sitting there and working with it, so you probably need several hours at least. There will be more documentation at these links here. I'm just going to go fairly quickly over this, because this is just looking at some of the differences between how you get an interactive session. I mean, the difference is mainly that at HPC2N, when you allocate an interactive session, you are actually not being sent to this compute nodes. You will stay on the login node, and in order to run jobs at the compute nodes you have allocated, you have to use srun, otherwise it runs on the login node. And all the other centers, you either are going to the compute node and run it there directly, or in the case of PDC, you can SSH to the compute node and then work on it directly. And that is summed up here. So this is actually important. So if you're on HPC2M, you must use srun to run all commands on the interactive session, because otherwise it runs on the login node, because you remain there. UPPMAX, LUNARC, NSC, you will be sent to the compute node and you will run there. PDC, at first you remain on the login node. You can use srun to run stuff there, just like at HPC2N, but the recommended way to do it is SSH to the compute node you got allocated and then run stuff there. So to start an interactive session, there are several ways. There is the command interactive, and that will work at all senders except PDC, and it's the recommended way at NSC and UPPMAX. The salloc command is the recommended way at HPC2N and at PDC, and it works at UPPMAX. And then there is the desktop on demand and the DFX launcher, which is possible at HPC2N and PDC, and the recommended way at LUNARC.
Birgitte,
yes.
Maria raised her hand.
Yes.
Hi. So do I understand correctly that with the interactive session, that when you started, you really just ask, I would like some resources to work on my code and see the results using the resources of the cluster. Whereas with the batch, you say, okay, I'm sending you a script. I will please run it for me, and I will get the results when it's the time or my time in the queue to run the script. Do I understand correctly?
Yes. In both cases, you will ask for resources.
Yes. But in the one we interact.
Yes, both if you are doing an interactive session or if you are doing a batch job. In both cases, you ask for resources, and in both cases, you sit in a queue. But
Okay.
after some time, your job gets to run. If it is an interactive session job, then you work interactively and run it on the resources. If it is a batch job directly sent off with a batch script, then it runs by itself without input from you. So
Okay.
that is the difference. Yeah.
So, and for it, in very simplistic way, so in interactive session, I send my run, and then I might have to wait for 10 minutes, whatever, for it to run. Whereas in the batch, it will run whenever it is, and I will get the output whenever it is to be done.
Yes.
Do I understand correctly?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I think I should have said something like this because it wasn't very clear on this. Sorry.
No, it's okay. It was clear. Just reading this and that, I just wanted to make it simpler in my head.
Okay.
Thanks a lot
Okay.
for the
Sure. Okay, so if you want to start an interactive session in the very simplest way, then you can just at UPPMAX say interactive minus capital A and the project name. The project name is the one you have up here, depending on the system. At HPC2M, you should use SLUNARC instead. Again, you need minus capital A and the project name. At LUNARC, use interactive or the desktop on demand. And again, you need the project name. At NSC also, but with interactive. And at PDC, you will also need to give the time. You actually also need to give the time at HPC2N. I think that fell out here. For HPC2N and PDC, you need to give the time and the project. For UPPMAX, LUNARC, and NSC, you only need to give the project name. So it would look something like this. And I am going to see if we should do that now or if we should, it's better to do it later. I think we will do it in a very short moment. So at the UPPMAX NSC, you just give the project name, and at the rest you also give the time. But the thing that is important is that this is the very simplest way, and it will give you default allocation. And that means since the default is almost certainly 1 core at most places, it may be too few cores compared to what you need. And maybe you need GPUs, maybe you need to run for a longer time. So you may not want to use the simplest way. I believe session duration is 30 minutes as default if you are at UPPMAX and NSC. So in any case, this will give you an interactive session, but it may not be large enough or have enough cores or whatever. So because of that, you can ask for more. And you do that the same way as you do for batch jobs, which I will talk about not tomorrow, but on Monday. And there's more talk about this here. And I will also give an example of how this runs in a very short moment. And you will type along with that. So when you have an interactive session, you leave it with exit. And a way to check for it, and I think I'm actually going to go ahead and start an interactive session now. So this is an HPC2M. I'm going to use SLUNARC. I'm going to ask for tell it which allocation to use. And now I don't remember what it was. It is 76. Yeah. And I will ask for time. I will ask for 30 minutes because it's not so long. It will give me something fairly quickly. And I will do the same at UPPMAX. And there the project is UPPMAX 2025 to 296. Yeah, I don't need to put time, so I'm not doing it. I think I get 30 minutes. I'm starting it. It will take a little while. I am going to continue here while I wait for this to start. but you can see you've got one at SPC2N. And here you get a job ID, which we'll talk more about in the batch session. And also you get a compute resource allocated. In this case, it is on the node BCN1701. And now I got resources at UPPMAX. And you see the difference here is this is the login node at SPC2N. And now I got the resources. I am still on the login node. On UPPMAX, the login node here was Rackham2. I now got resources. I got resources on R483, and I am on R483. So a way to check if you're in an interactive session, you can check for this, of course. You can see if it looks like this, then you're on Rackham compute node. If it has CN and number, you're on Cosmos compute node. N number, you're on Tetraedit compute node. And in ID number, you are on PDC Dardel compute node. And otherwise, you can always run host name. I will do that now. Then it tells me the host name, and I can see this is one of the compute nodes. At SPC2N, if I were to run host name, it will just tell me the host name of the login node. However, if I say srun in front of it, and this is going to run now on the compute node, as you can see, like this. So everything you run at SPC2N in an interactive session has to be prefaced with srun. If you are on UPPMAX or NSC or Cosmos, you will be directly on the login node. If you are on Dardel, and I can just very quickly log in there. This. There, and here you see the login node is called login1, and I do -alloc -a. I need to check what it is. It's not, it's a different one. It is NAISS 2025 22 403, and here I need to give the time. I'm going to ask for 30 minutes. This. And I also need to give the petition name. I need to check if I did this in. I think I didn't add that in the material. So if you're on Dardel, you also need to tell it the petition. It is main if it's just a regular CPU you want, otherwise it's GPU. But here you can see I got the node NID and 001850 allocated, but I stayed on the login node. So what I could do now is I say host name, I get the login node's host name. I say srun host name, it tells me the node that I got allocated, or I put SSH to this NID 00180 because it's now allocated to me and I can allocate SSH to it. I cannot do that at SPC2N because that's not allowed. But now I own the compute node and now I run host name. Now it is like it was at UPPMAX. I am on that. Good. So now we see the differences between how it works on these systems.
Just one question.
Mhm.
How do you go back from the compute node to the login node in the, I think it was Dardel?
On Dardel, you
Yeah,
are logged into it with SSH, so you can exit
okay.
like this.
Okay.
Then you're out. And
But this
since you can still log into it again because you have the
Okay.
allocation.
Okay, thank you.
If on the other hand you do this at UPPMAX or one of the other centers like LUNARC or NAISS, I exit it, then I let go of my allocation. It's gone. I cannot now go to it again. I have to start it up one more time, and I will probably get a different node. So that's the difference here.
Sorry, is it the same for HPC2N? That if you exit the entire.
Yes, like this.
Okay. Okay, then
Only Dardel you can log out and log in.
only Dard.
Yes. The other ones, you have to start a new allocation if you exit.
Sorry, just one quick question. The link you paste in the chat, is it the link for HPC2N? The one at the beginning for access? This one says
Depends.
forms, supra action.
Yes,
Oh,
that was
reset.
for
Password reset.
that was for password reset. If you need to do that for HPC2N, if you need to create a new password or set a password for HPC2N, you go there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so yes, to recap, if you are on one of these, if you're on either NSC, HPC2N, LUNARC, or UPPMAX, if you exit the allocation. If you're at Dardel, you can exit and you can log in again. Okay. I will just very quickly finish this so that Rebecca can take over with the Open on Demand. But I'm going to try and run a Python script here, and I'm going to do it at HPC2N. So I will load Python, and I will just check how I load that one. And I am going to grab Python, this one here. And I also need a prerequisite. So let's see how. Let's see. So I will just quickly load. So now it's loaded. And it complained about something. I'm going to see that. It complained about me not adding no. Okay, so I will run a Python script, and I can do that. I have this one sum2 args. I'm going to run it. And when I do that, nothing happens because, well, it complained because there's a permission denied. I'm going to check on that later. But the thing is, if you run that, it actually should run. But but you need to give the two numbers here, 2 and 3, for instance. And then it will add it. But there's a problem with the permissions clearly, which I will check on what is in a moment. So I'm going to use UPPMAX instead.
Sorry, Birgitte, can you increase slightly the size of the text just a little bit on the web browser?
On the web browser, okay.
Yes, please.
Is this better?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, I'm just going to go through this quickly because I want Rebecca to have time to do this desktop on demand. So I'm just going to talk about it here. But I load in my interactive session, I load the modules I need, like Python. And then when I have done that, I can do that either place. But if I then want to run a Python script at UPPMAX, LUNARC, NSC, or PDC, when I have SSH to it, as I said, to run it, you can just run it there. You just say Python and your script, because you're now in an interactive session and it runs on the compute node. If you are HPC2N, you have to say srun Python and your script in order to run it. And this also means there's a difference. If you are running something that you need true interactivity to, if your script asks you for something, if you, for instance, say you have a script that will ask you for 2 numbers, and you do that at HPC2N, it will not work because it will not give you the full interactivity that will be shown on the compute node, which you don't have access to. So you can actually give, if you know what it would ask for, you can input it, but otherwise it will not work there. Whereas if you have a script that doesn't need further interactivity, you can still run it then. At the other systems, UPPMAX, LUNARC, NSC, PDC, if you run a script there, it will ask for the numbers if it should ask you something. So that will work. And I suggest that Rebecca will now take over. And the thing I just did here, starting up an interactive session, and then try to do host name to see that it actually asked, that it actually got that. That you can just try and do in the break that will be afterwards, because it's just the same thing that I just did here. So I'm going to give over to